Morning, colleagues. Just before we check everyone's ID passes in console and press enter meeting. Good morning and welcome to this special budget set meeting of West Lothian Council. I'm Councillor Cathy Muldoon, Provost and Chair of today's meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live over the internet on the Council's YouTube channel. A recording of the meeting will be available through the Council's website afterwards. I'm being assisted today by Graham Holt, the Council's Chief Executive, and by Leslie Montague, the Governance Manager, and by officers from Committee and IT Services. The meeting is taking place under hybrid arrangements. This means that elected members and council officers can take part either by being here in the council chamber or by an internet connection from somewhere else. When members wish to speak, they click a button and that sends an alert to me and the officers helping me run the meeting. These requests go into a queue and microphones are activated in turn to let them be heard. When members are authorised to speak, their faces will appear on screen. There is more information, including a privacy statement about meeting arrangements on the Council's website. Colleagues, there may be some time lags of a few seconds as the microphones and cameras respond to signals from members. Members should please remember that everything they say while the microphones are live are broadcast and recorded. An agenda has been published showing the business for today's meeting. Although, colleagues, this is a special meeting and is taking place to make some of the Council's important annual budget setting decisions, the usual rules apply on the running of the meeting. There are no special standing orders that apply. I will introduce each item of business and officers will speak about the report before councillors, ask questions, have discussions and make any decisions that are required. Decisions are made by considering motions and amendments put forward by members. These will be dealt with in accordance with the Council's standing orders. The meeting might be paused or adjourned to allow motions and amendments to be circulated and read by members. Councillors might leave the meeting where they have declared interests that prevent them from taking part. There will be a pause if this happens. Colleagues, I tend to adjourn the meeting every 2 hours or so at suitable points for comfort breaks, and I will announce when that is going to happen. As usual, members are asked to be polite, respectful and patient. I remind members that there are rules in our standing orders about conduct in the chamber. Members must respect and behave courteously towards everyone taking part in the meeting. Members must respect my authority as chair of the meeting, and when I am speaking, anyone else speaking must stop. When a member is speaking, no one should be talking, doing anything which is disruptive to the member speaking. Colleagues, that takes us now on to the agenda. And do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Provost. I'm not in receipt of any apologies this morning, so all members are present. However, 5 of them are joining us online. They are Councillors Pattle, Pearson, Damien Doran-Timpson, Angela Doran-Timpson, Robert de Bold. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Just before we move on, can I say good morning to Councillors Pattle, Pearson, Angela Doran-Timpson, Damien Doran-Timpson and Councillor de Bold. Just to check microphones and so forth are working. Councillor Pattle, can you confirm that you can hear me? Thank you.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much, Provost.
Morning. Councillor Pearson? Sorry, Councillor de Bold then. Okay.
Good morning, Provost.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson? I'll come back to Councillor Pearson. Councillor Damien Doran-Timpson?
Good morning, Provost.
Morning, Damien. Councillor Angela Doran-Timpson?
Good morning, Provost.
Morning, Angela. Councillor Pearson, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, Provost, thank you very much.
No problem, morning. To our colleagues online, can I just advise and that if you have any IT issues with sound, you can either email committee services or contact a member of your group, whichever is more convenient. Okay. Colleagues, is there any declarations of interest? Councillor McMillan, Anne?
Provost, it's a transparency statement that I'm employed by Kirsty Sullivan, the MP for Bathgate and Linlithgow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No, thank you. Order of business is as on the agenda, and as it is a special meeting, there'll be no additional items added to this meeting. Colleagues, that takes us to the first substantive item of the agenda, which is the House and Revenue Account Budget 2026-27 to 27-28 and Rent Level 26-27. And I understand Dr. Cook will be presenting this report. Over to yourself, Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. The purpose of the report is to seek Council approval of the proposed HRA budget for 26-27 and 27-28 and associated rent strategy, as well as the proposed HRA budget, rent and service charge for 2026-27. The report advises the proposed 3.5% per annum rent strategy and the financial plan for the 2-year period, which will fund service needs and the Housing Capital Investment Programme, and also the associated HRA revenue budget of £70.019 million in 26-27. Provost, under Section 25 of the Housing Scotland Act 2001, the Council has a statutory duty to consult with its tenants on its rent policy. A formal consultation took place over November and December of last year, and I can advise that the consultation responses indicated that the majority of tenants, out of the 790 who responded, favoured continuation of the agreed 3.5% rent strategy from 2023 over the 5-year period. Affordability of rent remains a priority for the Council in a bid to ensure that rent remains good value when compared to the wider housing sector. There is no formal guidance on how to define an affordable rent. However, it is suggested that when housing costs exceed 30 to 35% of household income, the cost is judged to be unaffordable. The current average weekly rent in West Lothian is £92.20. It is proposed 3.5% rent increase is approved by Council. Based on the latest stock report, the average weekly rent charge for council homes in 26-27 will increase to £95.42 and for garages £6.83. The gross rent increase and associated average rent is calculated to equate to 20.8% based on a household income where a full-time employee receives the national minimum wage. This is well below the 30 to 35% threshold for affordability. A 3.5% per annum increase will also enable the delivery of a balanced HRA revenue budget, allowing high-quality housing management services to be maintained for our tenants and continued investment in our housing infrastructure. The proposed rent increase and resultant rent levels compare favourably with our Scottish councils and RSLs. Council should also note that if rents go up by 3.5%, the eligible rent on which the housing benefit calculation is based will also go up by 3.5%, so those on full benefit will not suffer financial detriment. The DWP landlord portal currently shows that 7,652 council tenants, around 67%, are in receipt of universal credit and/or housing benefit, and those in receipt of full housing costs will be refunded to meet the costs of any rent increase. The proposed 3.5% per annum rent strategy will continue to support the efficient management of the Council's housing stock and tenancies with customer-focused services delivered by the local housing teams, as well as supporting investment in existing stock and also the creation of new housing supply. It is planned to spend £70.019 million during the financial year 26-27. This sum will be spent on housing management, intensive housing services, rent collection, reactive maintenance and cyclical checks on properties, as well as capital financing charges and other administrative and support costs. The Council is conscious of the ongoing wider cost of living pressures which our tenants face, and measures are in place within housing services and the advice shop to provide specific guidance and support to our tenants and to signpost them to available supports for funding and assistance. The Council continues to engage with tenants to maximise income from tenant rents, and as at January 2026, the in-year cash collection rate for rent income remains very high at 96% as tenants continue to prioritise paying their rent. As set out in section D7 of the report, although the current rent strategy allows for a balanced budget in the current year, the pressure on the funding available from rent income for the capital investment programme continues to increase. The level of reserves as at the 31st of March 2025 was 926,000. There are, however, a number of risks and uncertainties called out in the report which could impact on the assumptions made in the revenue budget, which include costs and availability of both materials and subcontractors, to name a few, and as such, it is not proposed to use any of the reserve to fund the programme. Council should also note that an integrated relevance assessment and consumer duty assessment has been undertaken, and this has been included in the pack. In conclusion, the proposed rent strategy and HRA budget provides a financial plan incorporating 3.5% rent increase, which will allow the Council to continue to provide value for money services to our tenants. Thank you, Provost. Happy to take any questions along with our housing colleagues.
Thank you, Elaine. Colleagues, do we have any questions? Councillor Orr. Pauline?
Thanks, Provost. Can I just ask, there were 790 respondents to the consultation. What percentage of our total tenant base is that?
Just hang on a second, I'll work that out. Yeah, 10.3%.
Thank you. So the changes in the rent then have been made on 10.3% of our total tenants across the county. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thanks, Elaine. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell, your light was on and now it's been off for you. Still wanting to come in? Sorry. Yep. Councillor Campbell.
Just one question. Can I ask what resources are being targeted at void properties?
Julie? I think that's... Just press your... That's it now. Got it.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of void properties, we have identified an additional £1 million to be put into the budget this year for void properties. That will be to front load the work that we require to deal with our void properties and bring them back as quickly as possible. That's principally for building services. It may allow us to bring in contractors where that's required and to continue with the priority that we're giving to void properties within the service.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Where is that in the budget, Julie? Sorry.
So within the premises costs in Table 3 on page 5, Provost will see that premises costs are increasing from 27,533 to 28,466. So within that, we have identified some savings, but we'll also be identifying an additional £1 million specifically for voids.
No other. Councillor Boyle?
Thanks, Chair. Can I ask, we welcome this initiative to clear the voids properties, but that increase in the budget to try and deal with that, what sort of percentage is that against the general housing budget repairs?
Julie, just give us 2 seconds. Councillor Boyle, I think they're working it.
Chair, that equates to 14% of the overall housing budget. Within the housing services budget, we have budgets for building services employees, but also for materials and supplies, and we will also have a budget for contractors, but overall it's 14% of the entire budget.
Thanks for that, Julie.
Thank you. Colleagues, any further questions? There's no further questions. Any comments to the report? If there's no comments, do we have Councillor Paul? Sorry, Councillor Mannion.
I would just like to commend this report. Having spent some time getting an understanding of the consultation and the processes that have gone on for some time, it's greatly appreciated, and it's good to see from the level of returns that we had as part of the consultation that has been very robust. And also note that the performance around voids, which is important in terms of our overall supply, has been improving. And although we will ensure that continues to improve to ensure that the relevant supply is available, I think it's true to say that we are doing the best that we can with the resources that we have. We're not able to keep up with demand in the way that we would overall demand in the way that we would like. There is a homelessness crisis. There is a long waiting list. And if only we were able to have the resources that we were required in order to be able to build that which we need, then that would be helpful. But as we know, there are restraints in terms of what's available from the Scottish Government and policy, etc. So, in any event, that's why I'm commending this, and I thank officers for the work that they've done on the consultation and the work that all our housing officers do on an ongoing basis with our tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul?
Yeah, for a motion, Chair.
Right, okay, I think I was about to move on to asking that, but then there was some late buttons come in. So if you just wait to check if there's any more comments, Councillor Paul, and I'll bring you in. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Just one comment. I don't recall any suggestion from the Labour Party in Holyrood at the Scottish budget setting to divert funds to housing or indeed to local authorities. No suggestions, in fact, at all were made by Labour in Holyrood to uplift the funding for local authorities. So I'm not sure where Councillor Mannion thinks that funding is going to come from.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, do we have any further comments? If there's no further comments, Councillor Paul, you say you have a motion. Do you have a seconder to your motion?
Do, Chair. Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Maguire, thank you. Councillor Paul, can I ask if your motion has been sent to committee services?
As promised.
Okay, I can ask that that's been circulated.
Yes,
Thank
we'll
you.
do that now, Provost.
Aye, then lately.
Colleagues, I'll give us 5 minutes to look over the motion. Thank you. Thanks, colleagues. Thank you. Councillor Paul, just before I pass over to yourself, and I know you have stipulated in your motion, I just need to check with the governance manager whether this falls in with the rules about competency and lawfulness.
Thank you, Provost. I can confirm that the motion has been checked and has been verified. It's been competent and lawful.
Thank you. And just for any financial implications, Alistair, can I again ask yourself if this motion has any financial implications? Just get you, that's now.
Thanks, Provost. Yes, I've reviewed and I'm content with the financial implications.
Thank you. Councillor Paul, you have 5 minutes to speak to your motion.
Thanks, Chair. Provost, Lothian Council welcomes this Housing Revenue Account budget strategy for 2026-27 from to 27-28, which alongside the proposed Housing Capital Investment Programme forms part of the Council's integrated approach to the financial strategy, corporate planning, delivery of outcomes and performance monitoring. This 2-year Housing Revenue Account Review budget strategy continues to provide a balanced and financial plan, incorporating the 3.5 per annum rent increase which will allow the Council to continue to provide value for money to services to our tenants and will be responsive to the customers' needs. It will also enable a continued investment in our existing stock and infrastructure, as well as expand the supply of new housing. Council notes that the formal consultation with the Council tenants on the 5-year strategy for 23-24 to 27-28 budget strategy took place in 2022. And as reported, the Housing Service Policy Development Scrutiny Panel in 2023. 74% of the tenants responding expressed preference for 3.5 per annum rent strata increase over a 5-year period. The annual consultation engagement process for the council house tenants on the rent strategy for 2026 to 27 took place on November and December 2025. And the majority of those tenants responded expressed preference for a 3.5 per annum rent increase over the 2-year period 26-27 to 27-28. This position also supported by the tenants panel. At this time, thanks to Chair, that will be major for just now. Cheers.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire. Andrew, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much, Provost. Hopefully I'll not need 3 minutes. I think, first of all, we should put on record our thanks to all the hard-working staff. I'm sure everyone in the Chamber, as well as myself, that our inboxes are chock full of housing issues, and I'm sure we all know the hard work and effort that staff go to resolve issues across housing. This budget today represents and strikes a balance. It balances the needs to keep rents affordable for our tenants and also the need to continue to invest in our stock. And I think that it strikes the right balance at the right time. And I commend it and hope that everyone approves it. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Colleagues, do we have any amendments? Councillor de Bold. Councillor de Bold, do you have a seconder for the amendment?
I do.
Thank you. Councillor Bold, can you confirm that your amendment has been submitted to committee services?
It has.
Thank you. Val, just confirm that you have the amendment. Thank you.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Provost. Now I can get that circulated.
And that can be circulated. Thank you. Again, colleagues, we can have 5 minutes to the amendment. Thank you. Thanks, colleagues. Thank you. I think everyone has time to read the amendment. Just before I move to Councillor de Bold, can I just confirm with the governance manager that the amendment is competent?
Thank you, Provost. I can confirm that the amendment has been verified as being competent and lawful.
Thank you. And Alistair, can you just confirm if they have any financial implications?
Thanks, Provost. Yes, I've reviewed and I'm content with the financial implications as set out.
Thank you. Councillor de Bold, Robert, you have 5 minutes to speak to your amendment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Provost. I'm sure that will be familiar to those of you who were here last year. Last year, I put forward a similar motion to increase our efforts in tackling the problem of void properties. The administration, in their wisdom, voted that down. However, the problem of void properties still exists. I am very much aware that we are doing, as a council, making efforts to tackle this problem. However, I believe that we can do additional. This amendment resolves to redirect £150,000 from within the HRA budget in order to reduce the number of void properties by a further 30 properties and return them to mainstream lets. I so move.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell. Janet, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Provost. I suppose I want also to put on record my thanks to staff who in housing who I know work extremely hard. In my previous job, I also had to visit council houses or West Lothian council houses which, let's say, were less than well looked after. So I know how hard staff have to work, and I think we have to congratulate them on the work they do. However, any comments are directed entirely at a coalition administration which has no strategic outlook and, as ever, is slow to react. One of the greatest pressures on the housing revenue budget is the number of voids which we have. The number of voids, the large number of voids means obviously a loss of revenue for this council, and that loss of revenue remains unacceptably high. And whilst the level of rents in West Lothian may compare favourably with other local authorities, I'm actually not sure that the high number of voids also compare favourably. So I would ask my colleagues across in the Labour Party to support this amendment. What this is doing is turbocharging our commitment to reduce voids and increase revenue for this council. So I will be supporting the amendment.
Thanks, Janet. Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any further amendments? If there's no further amendments, do we have any comments? Councillor McLennan, followed by Councillor Boyle. Councillor McLennan, you have 3 minutes.
I don't need 3 minutes. I just want to ask, is the sum of £5,000 per property realistic, or is it a bit on the low side?
Sorry, Councillor McLennan, we've actually moved on from questions. We're now at comments. Sorry, okay. And obviously, and I understand. Maybe I can ask someone from the SNP if they're going to be making a comment, then they could actually answer that. Okay, Councillor Boyle, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the comment was made about inboxes being mostly around housing. And I agree with Councillor Campbell here. It's a thankless task in the housing services at the moment because of the sheer volume of what they're dealing with. So it's the work that is going on is really appreciated. It's still leaving us in a difficult position, even with this motion. Given the housing crisis that we're in, the number of inquiries we're getting regarding lack of housing and appropriate housing, and the position with voids, we need to seriously look going forward at what else we can do to turn this around. I still feel that a lot of the time we're still just scratching the surface. It's an issue that's not going to go away, and I think that we need some strategies that we can bring forward, not necessarily for today's budget, but certainly to look at what other resources we can put in to try and resolve the situation that we're in. Support the amendment.
Thank you. Any other contributions? I will have Councillor Meek followed by Councillor Stafford. Craig, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much, Provost. This HRA budget and Labour motion is responsible, balanced and provides a prudent financial strategy. It protects services, maintains investment in their housing stock and supports new supply, and ensures long-term sustainability of our HRA. 3.5% rent strategy was consulted on, supported by tenants, and reflects a consistent 5-year approach. This is what good local government looks like: stability, transparency and financial discipline. But let's be absolutely serious about this situation. West Lothian, like other authorities, have declared a housing emergency. Even our Scottish Government declared a housing emergency, yet local authorities continue to be faced with underfunding, fluctuating capital allocations and lack of sustained long-term certainty. When the Scottish Government reduces or squeezes affordable housing investment, councils like ours are forced to rely on more heavily rely on borrowing. That increases capital finance costs, ultimately places pressures on rent strategies. Whilst councils are expected to build more homes, reduce waiting lists, tackle homelessness and meet ever-rising regulation and standards, the Scottish Government have chosen to pursue centralisation instead of direct investment. The proposed new national housing body, another Quango, will not build another single house in West Lothian. It won't repair a council roof in Faulthouse. It won't house temporary accommodation, anybody in temporary accommodation. But what it will do is absorb public money into salaries, offices, governance structures and consultants. We've seen this model already within the National Care Service that the SNP Scottish Government tried and failed to implement. The process consumed significant public funds and delivered diddly squat. No care, no support. Millions were spent and nothing materialised. Just yet another example of how SNP are out of ideas, out of touch and reckless with their money.
30 seconds, Councillor Meek.
Repeating this mistake in housing. If the SNP government were serious about tackling housing emergency, it would invest directly in councils and housing associations, the bodies that actually deliver homes. It would cut bureaucracy, not expand it. It would trust local government, simply not sidelined it. This minority Labour administration is taking responsible decisions today about protecting
Can I ask you to sum up, please?
garden reserves and maintaining investment despite the difficult financial climate. Support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, just before I move on, at the start we ask about respect in the chamber, so please when someone is speaking, can we be respectful to that person that is speaking? Thank you. Also, I understand we may have lost Councillor Pearson, so understand Val's trying to reconnect. I don't know if someone would want to try and if he's tried to contact anybody. Councillor Stafford followed by Councillor Orr. Pauline, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Provost. Just to start by responding to Councillor McClellan's point, I believe the 5,000 figure came from Head of Housing and the amendment has been checked by Housing and Finance and was approved. So that's where the figure came from. To Councillor Meek, we are in a housing emergency, which means we should be straining every sinew to tackle this, and voids are one of the most cost-effective ways of doing that. My inbox is full of housing inquiries, but it's also full of people who recognise voids in their own streets, in their own communities, and when they know families that are living in really damaging circumstances in temporary accommodation, to see empty homes sitting for any longer than they have to really is an abomination. This is a small figure we're asking for, and we recognise that there's already a lot of funds going into voids, but this would represent 30 families who are at the moment sitting in temporary accommodation or hotel accommodation, with all the mental and physical health impacts that brings and the long-term consequences of that. It's not just the cost of lost rent, but this really is detrimental to our families in West Lothian. So this is a tiny amount to push this as far as we possibly can to turn voids round as quickly as possible. And again, you say there's a lack of money coming from Scottish Government, but your own Labour Party asked for nothing and got nothing in the recent budget.
Thank you. Councillor Orr, followed by Councillor Fitzpatrick. Pauline, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Provost. Well, firstly, I would just like to say thank you to Councillor Meek for his party political speech. Not quite sure that today is the right forum for that. However, in respect of Lloyd's voids in general, I've been out to see voids for myself, and I've seen the category 3s in particular, which for Councillor McClellan there, they take an average of £10,000 to £12,000 each to repair. So the amendment that we are proposing, as Councillor Stafford has said, is to identify additional funding to quickly get some of those lesser voids back into tenancy, where we are then receiving the income in from them. The voids team pair, we know that there was a motion raised at last full council, and I know that we have asked for additional work and review to be done around the process of voids to try and make it stronger to protect our vulnerable families, who are those often homeless families who are in temporary accommodation, who are in bed and breakfast, but also those tenants who perhaps need just a little bit of support to look after their properties and keep the rent up to date. That is the strength of our amendment to council here today. And before I finish, I do just want to thank Julie and all her teams for the absolute sterling work that they do in a very difficult circumstances, and what they have done so far. It's about thinking long term and strategically with what resources we've got to make that a little better and make sure that people are in homes and have a home, somewhere to call their solid base as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Provost, and good morning to everyone. The difficulty in dealing with voids is the time between, say, someone doing what's known as a moonie, is disappearing, which often happens, and housing services becoming aware. That can be because of neighbour notification. After a few weeks, it can be the fact that they haven't paid their rent. So that's a very critical factor. What you're suggesting is taking from supplies and services is 2.558 million, and also money from other services, housing services, without identifying them. It would be the case. It would be well into the financial year before we could be geared to deal with that. My opposition councillor has been quite correct. Some of these houses can take up to £12,000 to correct them and repair them. And time to repair is very, very important, because it's not just identifying the property. We are heavily reliant on the water board, gas and electricity, and the fact that there may be severe damage to toilet bowls, etc. We do have houses the length of the land, which have different types and manufacture of fixtures, and they may come from abroad, and the lead-in time can be quite extensive. What we're doing, if buy supplies and services, and also sorry, there's a bit of noise there, and also to be able to run an even keel. So I think we should support the motion put forward by my colleague, Councillor Paul. It is well intended, and I think we should reject the SNP motion, all on the grounds that, to be honest, we did expect a bigger rent increase being proposed by the SNP, but they've kept it at the level suggested by officers. The fact that we're running into a parliamentary period for Scottish Parliament, of course, has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's all rhetoric, and it's to show that they do care. The reality is the SNP government don't care, not just about housing, but about local government. Thank you, Provost.
Yeah. Is there any other contributions? Councillor Cohen. Tom, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Provost. Apologies to my colleague, Councillor Orr, but if I make any political statements, you shouldn't be surprised. This is the nature.
Councillor Cohen, can I just ask you to lift your mic up? Sorry, thank you.
Sorry, I'm just apologising if I make any political statements, because clearly this is not the occasion to make them. However, can I just say that rough sleeping in Scotland has risen by 106% over the last 3 years. Record numbers of our children are living in temporary accommodation. Official figures released this month show in Glasgow, the City Council leader warned last year that the authority has run out of temporary housing. When does the alarm bells ring that the Scottish Government actually listen to? The paradox in Scotland is that we have the strongest homelessness protections in Europe. More than a decade ago, the Scottish Parliament abolished the priority need test, creating a statutory duty on councils to secure permanent accommodation for all unintentional homeless applicants. And the charity Shelter considers Scotland to have the best homeless list law in Europe. Having a legal right to a home doesn't mean having a home. Social and affordable housing supply has failed to keep people who have been put up no way of leaving due to high rents and a lack of social housing, and councils have exhausted their options. Building social homes is a devolved responsibility, and it leaves the Scottish National Party, which has governed from Edinburgh since 2007, exposed. Analysis suggests that Scotland needs just under 16,000 new social homes each year to prevent homelessness rising further. But in 2001, the SNP promised to deliver 110,000 houses by 2032. However, it has fallen well short of that target. The Scottish Government's current commitment of 36,000 affordable homes over the next 4 years equates to around 9,000 houses per year. That's 7,000 less than their target and what we think we should need. Where does the buck stop? It stops in Edinburgh. The new national agency, according to the First Minister, will mean less duplication, greater expertise, increased efficiencies.
30 seconds, Councillor Cohen.
Making substantial investment go further. But colleagues, why do we need a new agency? Why can't the Scottish Government refocus the civil service bureaucracy rather than form another quango? The last time they tried a quango was the National Care Service, and that was a waste of £28 million. How many homes could we have built for £28 million? That's
sum up, please, Councillor Cohen.
And not what is in the amendment by the SNP. Support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Contributions, Councillor Damien Doran-Timson, followed by Councillor Patchell. Damien.
Morning, thank you, Provost.
it's just picking up on it very briefly what the leader of the council said about identifying void properties and the challenges that faces. Maybe he and the rest of the Labour group should have backed Angela Doran-Timpson's motion at council the other month, where she suggested more inspections and more work is done with tenants who are in difficulty. It's a shame that Labour don't listen to anyone else and just think that their way is always the right way. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Councillor Patel, followed by Councillor McLennan. Sally?
Yes, thank you very much, Provost. I really just wanted to come in to say thank you to the officers. I've had a lot of questions during this budget proposal and negotiation period, and they have just been so open and transparent when I've asked anything. I really want to pay tribute because we are obviously in a very difficult situation, and I think that they are working as hard as they possibly can to ensure that we have a balanced budget at the end of the day, because that's what we have to do, but also to ensure that the tenants of West Lothian Council are receiving best value for public money at the end of the day. So I really just wanted to come in briefly and say thanks very much to the officers for answering all of my questions over the past few weeks and months. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Thank you. Councillor McLennan. Councillor McLennan, I did actually bring you in before and it was a question, so obviously being you at the being lenient here, okay? I will let you in to make a brief comment. Thank you.
I would just like to say that for the cost of a new built house of £120,000, you could do 10 void repairs. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Heggie. Peter?
Thank you very much, Provost. I felt I had to come in on this. I was surprised to hear members around the room talking about this not being a political matter. We know in West Lothian we have a rapidly ageing population. It's becoming more and more complex. Our colleagues in the housing team do a fantastic job to accommodate people in housing that suits them where they can. It's not going to get any easier. We know it's not going to get easier. It's going to get more and more complex. There's more and more demand. You obviously have the breakdown in relationships where people then need to be rehoused. And obviously the major thing we need to think about is children, the young people in our population who need to be looked after, still need to be brought to education and everything else that goes with it. The major issue, and we talk about it budget after budget, is funding. It comes down to funding. The SNP government in Holyrood have continually underfunded every council across Scotland. This is no great surprise for me to say this. We're all aware of it. Everybody sees it. We argue about, who argued about things during budgets, who brought things up. It's a continuous underfunding. We've seen it. This is my 9th budget sitting here. We've talked about this same conversation. It comes down to the basic fact of Scottish Government allowing councils a realistic budget to be able to look after the constituents that we represent. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Colleagues, if there's no other contributions, Councillor Clark. Pauline, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Provost. Just a quick comment to Councillor Meek. And I suppose as a member of the Labour Party, and you're being so disgruntled with the SNP, I'm just thinking you might want to contact your parliamentary colleagues in Holyrood to ask them to take note of your angst, and perhaps you might want to ask where was their budget amendment last week. And also to say that no one in this room is denying the difficulties associated with the housing crisis. But as we are also all aware, finances are strained throughout the whole of the UK, and we know that the previous UK government was solely responsible for that. And sadly, any hope we had that a Labour government in Westminster would make a change has just not happened. It's shocking, although not surprising, that Labour cannot bring themselves to realise that the SNP amendment is an improvement to Labour's motion, and it would be nice to see you actually doing what's right for the people here in West Lothian. And as for the political statement about there being an election, that is the same election, Lawrence, that I'm sure the Labour Party will also be contending. So let's just think pots and kettles.
Thank you. If there's no further contributions, Councillor Paul, can you sum up, please? You have 5 minutes.
Thanks, thanks, Chair. Chair, this Labour administration doesn't understand underestimate the challenges of our tenants in these difficult times, and notes the reported level of cumulative rent arrears. However, and I want tenants yet again are to be commended for the priority they are placing on the payment of the rent. However, affordability of rent remains a key concern, and the ongoing support being provided by the Council via the Housing Services Advice Shop will continue to be important this coming year. For those tenants who may struggle to pay their rent and other cost of living expenses. There also remains the ongoing impact of universal credit, the cost of the living crisis, and the other pressures such as housing revenue account reserves should be maintained at £926,000 to meet the unforeseen demands on the resources. Council therefore agrees to approve the 3.5% per annum rent strategy and financial plan for the period 26-27 to 27-28, which will fund services needed for a housing capital investment programme. Approve the proposed rent increase of 3.5%, 26-27, and the associated HRA budgets for 26-27 as set out in the report, and approve the proposed rent increase of 3.5% for sheltered housing, homeless properties, as well as the related service support charges for 26-27. Thank you, Provost, and support the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Paul. Just before we go straight to the vote, Val, can you just check if all our members who started off online are still online?
Unfortunately, Provost, Councillor Pearson dropped off a short while ago. We've been trying to get him reconnected. I understand where he is the Wi-Fi is the issue, and unfortunately the alternative that we hoped would be successful will not work either because of the Wi-Fi issue.
Okay. Well, at least we can go straight to the vote.
Thank you, Provost. The vote will be conducted electronically. There are 32 votes to be cast. There is the motion by Councillor Paul. That is your yes button. There is the amendment by Councillor DeBold. That is your no button. And there is a third button there for abstain. Please cast your vote.
Councillors DeBold and Councillors Angela Doran Timson.
Thank you, Provost. All votes have now been cast. There are 16 votes for the motion and 16 votes for the amendment. In the circumstances where there is a tied vote, Provost, it will be for you to determine if you will cast a casting vote.
Thanks, Leslie, and my vote will go with the motion. Thank you. Motion's carried. Colleagues, that takes us to item 5, which is a Housing Capital Investment Programme 26-27 to 27-28. And sorry, Dr. Cook will present this report.
Thank you, Provost. The purpose of the report is to seek Council approval of the proposed 26-27 to 27-28 Housing Capital Investment Programme. Proposal to purchase up to 15 additional new build properties and a minimum of 20 additional open market acquisitions using savings identified within the capital programme, and to note the scope of the works to be undertaken by Building Services under the terms of the Best Value Framework. The programme will see a total investment of £65.738 million over the 2-year period, with significant investment in the creation of new homes and a strong focus on the maintenance of quality standards across the existing housing stock. Section D3 of the report notes that there have been savings in the energy efficiency budget as a result of a delay in the implementation of the Heat in Buildings Bill, and also notes that an opportunity has arisen for the purchase of up to 15 new build properties. It is proposed that the savings identified, along with the benchmark grant funding from Scottish Government, are used to purchase these 3 and 4 bedroom properties in 2026, and also to purchase a minimum of 20 open market acquisitions spread over 2026 and 2027. The proposed capital investment programme is set out in section D4 of the report and is based on recent reports to Council Executive on the Strategic Housing Investment Plan, the Local Housing Strategy, as well as the Housing Rent Consultation and Capital Investment Strategy, which have all outlined the proposals to be taken forward in relation to how new housing supply and housing infrastructure can be delivered. The proposed investment programme is summarised in Table 1 on page 3 of the report, and the individual projects comprised within each project heading are listed within Appendix 1. Further detail on the work encompassed within the programme is set out in Appendix 2. The proposed programme sees the continuation of the capital investment approved by Council in February 2025, with adjustment to reflect the 2024-25 outturn and carry forward approved by Council Executive in June of 2025. The funding for the programme will be largely met through borrowing and CFCR, funded through Housing Revenue Account budget and also supported by Scottish Government grants as set out in section D5 of the report. All aspects of the Housing Capital Investment Programme are geared towards securing best value for the Council and for our tenants, and the review of the Housing Capital Investment Programme for the 2-year period has been undertaken to determine which works are to be carried out by external providers and which are to be undertaken by our in-house building services, with a view to the Council's best value framework. The outcome of that exercise will be kept under review at regular intervals over the duration of the programme and tested through the best value framework. It is proposed, as set out in section D6, that specific forms of work are undertaken by building services. Council is asked to note that an integrated relevance assessment has been undertaken and is attached as Appendix 3 to the report. The proposed Housing Capital Investment Programme forms a key part to the longer-term approach to asset investment and planning, and also considers the expenditure required to improve and extend council assets for future years for our tenants. In conclusion, the report sets out a proposed capital investment programme that will continue to deliver on the new build programme, but also deliver significant investment and maintain and improve our existing stock. Thank you, Chair, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions to the report? Councillor Pearson, followed by Councillor Maguire. Councillor Pearson.
There's no questions. It's just to let you know that's me back in.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
Yes. Thanks very much, Provost, and thanks to Dr. Cook. I can't remember if I asked this question at the PDSP or not, so I'll ask it again just to be on the safe side. I understand that we've got an opportunity to potentially buy 15 new build properties and that there's market sensitivities around that. I just wondered if that fell through, what we would use the money identified for. Would we look to buy new build properties elsewhere, or would we consider open market acquisition with that money?
Thanks, Angela. Marjorie, thank you.
Thank you, Provost. Yeah, there's yes is the answer to that question. We would continue to review it and anticipate that there could be other opportunities coming forward. But we are in close contact with all of the housing developers in West Lothian, just generally through the Affordable Housing Programme in any case. So we would keep that under review should the 15 that have come forward at present were not to go forward.
Thank you. Colleagues, any further questions? Councillor Stafford, followed by Councillor Fitzpatrick. Pauline?
Thanks, Provost. I think this might be a question for Marjorie or Julie. Just on page 4 under the planned programmes, I'm really pleased to see that we've created a dedicated team in response to AWAB's law to tackle damp and mould in social housing. And I just wondered if you could outline what the 832,000 would cover within that project. And do you think that's enough for the expected volume that we'll have to deal with?
Marjorie?
Chair, the dedicated team that's been set up, we actually already have in place. Part of that, we're expanding that team and building services. That team will allow us to respond quickly and within the guidance once the guidance is published in terms of meeting the timescales for ensuring that we adequately survey, identify the issues, deal with the issues, and then actually undertake any works. In terms of the budget itself of £832,000, that will be to undertake that work, and as part of some of the resources, it will be demand led, however, so obviously we will review that as we move forward with any programme of work that comes from that, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, on you go, Pauline.
Yeah. Thanks, Marjorie. That's great. When you say we're going to survey them, do we do that in-house or do we use specialist damp and mould surveyors for that work?
Provost, it's a combination of both. So we do have trained officers who can undertake those surveys, but at times, if there's more, then we'll use externals, but the plan would be to utilise in-house resource for that moving forward.
Councillor Fitzpatrick. Lawrence?
Thank you very much, Provost. I'd like to ask officers with regard to the new build programme now and looking to the future. I do appreciate, having been at the PDSP, that there is a huge pressure for family housing, and that, I understand that the costs can be quite substantial. Could you give us a bit more detail on this, please, about the extent of the pressure for family housing and the cost of, say, providing 4 or 5 bedroom houses? Thank you very much.
Marjorie? Marjorie, thank you.
What we are looking in terms of the demand profile of our of those coming and approaching the council for council housing, what we do tend to find is that because the stock, we have a large number of 2 and 3 bedroom properties, that it does quite often mean that it's the 1s and 2s, perhaps is in the 4s and 5 bedrooms, that are the ones where we have less numbers of, and you'll see that on the property turnover reports that are reported to PDSP on a quarterly basis. On that basis, we try and ensure that the mix of affordable housing that's built reflects that. However, there is still a demand for 2 and 3 bed. There's a demand for all sizes of housing. In terms of costs, the average cost of new supply houses at the present time is about £220,000, but that's average, so that averages across. Clearly, if we have a large number of small units, that will be slightly less, and if we have only larger units, then that would be slightly more. But because we undertake sites and as an overall development, that's the basis that we base our prices on at present. But clearly the mix will impact on that. If it's larger properties, it'll cost more.
Thank you for that clarity. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Colleagues, any further questions? If there's no questions, is there any comments to the report? No, not seen any. Is there any motions to the report? Councillor Paul.
We got a motion, Chair.
You have a seconder?
Do Councillor Maguire.
Thank you. Can you confirm it's been sent to committee services?
Yep.
Thank you. Val, can you please distribute now? Thank you. Thanks, colleagues. Before I invite Councillor Paul to make his contribution, I'm just going to check that the main amendment is compliant and lawful. Leslie?
Thank you, Provost. I can confirm that the motion has been verified as lawful and competent.
Thank you. Alistair, can you confirm there's any financial implications within the motion?
Thanks, Provost. I've reviewed the financial implications set out in the motion and I'm in agreement with those.
Thank you. Councillor Paul, just before I ask you to speak, I'm just going to Councillor Boyle, your light's on.
Just for a bit of clarity, it says at the bottom that it's been checked for.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just have to get that checked.
I'm wondering about the accuracy stating that it's minority Labour administration.
Thank you. Councillor Paul, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Provost. Provost, West Lothian Council welcomes the Housing Capital Investment Programme for 26-27 to 27-28, which alongside the Housing Revenue Account budget forms part of the Council integrated approach to the financial strategy, corporate planning and to deliver outcomes of performance and monitoring. Under the previous Labour administration, the Housing Capital Investment Programme delivered over 188 million of investment in both the existing stock and new build council housing. Since May 22, the Labour government has delivered over 84 million of investment and a further 37 million is projected for 26-27, totalling 121,835,000 over this period. Building upon the strong foundation of this minority Labour administration is determined to deliver further investment of over 65 million under a proposed programme. This continues to be a strong focus within the programme of creation of additional social housing, including consultation with the approved new build programme, continuing with a programme of open market acquisitions. Good progress has been made to deliver the West Lothian Affordable Housing Programme across the active sites, with 1,386 units completed at the end of Q3 25-26. The proposed Housing Capital Investment Programme includes a further 35 additional new council homes delivered with a budget with a provision of 10,321,000. This will deliver an overall total of 462 new council houses, including both new build upon open market acquisitions over a 5-year investment period to 27-28. These measures will increase the availability of social housing within the communities of both existing residents and the future generations. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, thanks very much, Provost. I'm sure I won't need 3 minutes, and thanks again to officers for their comments and for their hard work in the past year. I think that, as I said earlier, this strikes a balance. There's lots of debate on homelessness, and rightly so, given the pressures that many people face. But
sorry, Andrew, just 2 seconds. Colleagues, can we make sure all phones are on silent, please? Thank you, Andrew.
Problem, Provost. There's lots of debate on homelessness, and rightly so, given the pressures that people face living in temporary and unsuitable accommodation. But it's right that we also acknowledge the fact that we're continuing to invest in our housing stock to existing council houses, and I think that sometimes goes underreported. So I think that this budget strikes the right balance between being able to build new houses to increase the supply, but also to invest in the stock that we already have. And Provost, if I can be parochial, I'm particularly pleased to see of the many major improvement projects that are going to take place in Armadale in the next year or two. So yeah, thanks for that, and I hope that we can all coalesce around this and agree this budget for the year. Thanks.
Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any amendments? Councillor DeBold.
I'd like to move the paper as is. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any amendments? Sorry? If there's no further amendments, then the paper is carried. Colleagues, just like to thank you all for your attendance today and your contributions.